Still trying to connect. All right, so here we are, live in New York City with the dynamic duo, Barry Boggan, DJ Riggs, Mainentrance Artists. We're here in their studio at the Main. They're going to be doing a full look tonight for us on a beautiful model. Alyssa, you excited, Alyssa?
Yeah, I can't wait.
Ready to have some fun hair?
Yeah.
So we're going to start with the color. Barry's going to get in here and tell us what you got going on, Barry.
Cool. Perfect. Well, welcome to the Main, you guys. This is where we host our academy sessions as well as any venue production in terms of shooting and so forth. And as Mainentrance Artists, this is our home. So
you guys do your clients here too?
Yeah, and our clients.
Hi, Frank.
We still regularly do clients. I mean, the key thing here is just making sure that we still stick with what we love, and we love taking care of clients behind the chair as well as sharing with you guys. So Barry's just going to go ahead and start breaking down a little bit of what she's doing on Alyssa, and then I'll update you guys a bit later.
Okay, great. So with Alyssa, you can see we've already done some pre-work. Naturally, she's a level 7 as a base, and you can see that I've started this technique that basically we're doing a brushed metal technique.
Super bright light.
So you can see that, let me turn her around this way for you, Kelly. Is that better?
Uh-huh.
So you can see that it's not perfectly all one tone. That's intentional. We're going to elevate that look and progress a little bit more. This is coming from our Marshall's Luxe trend, from our trend takeover program. So what I'm going to be doing is working with that Marshall's Luxe feeling. And if you think about Marshall's Luxe, it's all about having a masculine feel, but making it luxury. So what we're going to be thinking about is creating a brush steel. So think about armor or a sword, and when that brush steel hits the light, you have different reflections of tone. So I'm going to be using a temporary color to do this. And you know, some of our clients like that look of having the grays or the steels, but it's a little bit too much for them full on all the time. So what I'm going to do is actually create something that comes out in 2 to 3 washes using a color called streakers, which is a temporary color. It's basically like a lip stain for the hair.
So is that something you mix up yourself, or that's the actual brand name, Streakers?
The brand name is Streakers. So
really?
you can,
I haven't heard of that
yeah.
one. That's
I
cool.
don't think it's, I mean, I'm not sure exactly where I found it. I think it was from some deep Google searching. So, you know, I'm always looking for different types of tools to be able to create these session looks so that I don't have to always rely on my permanent color palette.
Yeah. So you basically were just searching, looking for something.
Temporary hair color.
And you found Streakers.
Did you find it in England, though, or was it Paris?
Oh, maybe we found
Oh, was it England? Was it Paris?
I think it was Paris.
The jet setters.
No, that was, oh yeah, that was, you're right, DJ. Good memory.
Sectioning here.
So is the sectioning kind of organic, or do you have like a very specific plan in mind? I know you said it's part of one of your trends, so do they come with like a technique?
So basically what we're doing is looking at creating, what our trends do actually, Jordan, that's a great question, is it's not so much technique or collection focus, it's a feeling focus. So each time and each, bless you, that's okay. Each model that comes in or each client that comes in can be in a trend, whether their hair is long or short, they can still be inside of Marshall's Luxe. So it's really more about creating a feeling. And in this case, you know, Alyssa has some disconnections already, obviously, in undercut. What we want to do is come with a C curvature shape that's just above those disconnections. And that's where we're going to create the majority of that brushed metal feeling. So when you're sectioning on short hair, it's always a little bit tricky. You know, you have those little guys that come back out for you. So what I'm going to do is get this base in of what I want, and then I'm going to clean it up after that.
So where does that name come from, Marshall's Luxe? So I know you guys have like several trends that you do each season.
Yeah.
So explain those terms to me. Marshall makes me think of Marshall Stack. Like
That's
a
another
guitar.
interpretation.
Yeah. That's what I thought. It was like a rock Luxe thing, but tell me what it really is.
So Marshall's Luxe comes from Marshall's Arts and Luxury. So it's very, has a lot of Eastern influences.
Okay, I got it now. Got it.
So think
Marshall
warrior,
Arts.
think,
Right.
but think luxury
Marshall
fabric.
with a TIA.
Right, that
Marshall
type
Luxe.
of Marshall.
Okay.
So you can see I have a C curvature here that works from the recession all the way up above the parietal ridge and then to the crown area. And then on the same side, on the opposite side, we're going to do the same. I'm not going to be super worried if it's perfectly balanced. I'm just looking for that organic asymmetry. So I'm just going to clean that up. This side is looking pretty good. And to go back to your question, Gerard, each season we have 4 different looks, so that's 8 per year. So we have 8 themes basically per year, and within those, that's what we base all of our education out of and off of. So it really depends on...
What comes first, like the technique and then you put a trend to it, or the trend and then you put a technique? I often wonder about stuff like that.
Yeah, the trend comes first.
Yeah.
And then we build looks to work curvature shapes. And what I'm going to be doing is color layering basically different tones together. Tilt your head up just a little bit, Alyssa. Thank you. So you want to take a C curvature shape, and then within that, I'm going to be starting to work these brushed metal colors. So how I create these brushed metal tones, I'm going to actually get with you a little bit later when we go to rinse this out, because when you're working with temporary color and you're working on a blonde, obviously, it is going to be pretty much what you see, a little bit lighter. So we're going to actually rinse this out, whereas the directions say to kind of blend it in and just dry it in. We're actually going to rinse this out, and then we're going to work straight into DJ's look.
So you're really just like staining a blonde?
Totally.
Yeah, so it's this really kind of fun, temporary...
It's a temporary situation, but it's also something that you can do in the salon. So, you know, a lot of times we think about session color, which is like what we like to call it, so which is a look that is for a specific moment or time, not something that's a lasting feeling. And with session color, basically, you can also charge for that. Think of it like event hair, like the same way that you do updos for events.
Yeah, or like a braid or something. It's
Right,
not permanent,
absolutely.
but people dig it while they have it, right?
So what I've done is I've actually mixed a whole lot of the streakers tones. I think they come in about 8 different colors, and I've mixed them and diluted it with water.
They better
So
put you guys
water-based
on the
product.
payroll. Because I
Right.
never heard of streakers before,
Gonna
and
hear about it now.
by the end of the week, probably about 35,000 people will see this video, so...
We're coming at you.
Yeah, we're coming at you. So can you tell us a little bit about the pre-lightning? Like
Absolutely.
how did you create the base hair?
So for the base, Alyssa was already a blonde, and she was ashy the last time that her hair was done, but not this level of brushed metal. So all that we did was she had about 1 inch of new growth. So it was a little bit more than, you know, maybe recommended. But what we did with that was we actually just did Schwarzkopf Blonde Me with 20 volume at the roots for about 35 minutes. And we just toned with, actually with Fabuloso Pro with Evo, because I just wanted to have something that was transitional. I didn't want to have a real solid base on there. So actually some of the area that you see is barely toned. So that's how we
What's your
created that
philosophy
process.
with color tools? It seems like you're always working with all kinds of different things. Like, how does that work for you?
For me, it's what works for what purpose. So as colorists, we have a whole palette of things that we can use. And sometimes we have even more options than we think about. You know, like a streakers or a temporary color or anything like that, hair chalks, that type of thing. And I think sometimes when we're in the salon, we lock ourselves into a little bit of that salon mentality of having just one type of color, only one product. And I think it's just experimenting and seeing what you like and what different products have to offer.
So you're always just searching and trying different
Yeah,
things, keeping
trying out.
your ear to the ground.
Absolutely.
And I mean, how do you try something new? I know people kind of get locked in and they're like, this is what I've been using. So do you like get a model, or do you actually try things on a client?
No, I usually try it on a model, or actually usually the first step is trying it on a weft.
Yeah, well, that
So,
makes sense.
you know,
yeah.
let's try it on a
Yeah.
weft first, see how fast it works, you know, read up on it a bit. But the ultimate test is always going to be like, you know, how mannequin hair lifts is great to know how a lightener is going to work, because
Right.
mannequin
That's
hair is
the
like
hardest to lift,
notoriously
right?
hard to lift.
Yeah.
So that's a good case in point. Just to get to the technique a little bit, I want to just point out the blending that we're doing here. So one important part of the brushed metal is to have no lines, really. So you want to think about, you know, stainless steel or any type of brushed metal. You have areas where it's more saturated and areas where it's less saturated. So you can see that I'm using a really loose ended brush so that I have that feathering effect. And what I'm going to do as well, so this is more of the blue metal and this is more of the green metal. So what I'm going to do is actually code my foils so that I know where everything is. So this I'm going to fold vertically, whereas the other one I'm going to fold with a horizontal fold rather. And I'm also going to leave some of the pre-existing. So I have a C curvature here, C curvature there. Now I'm going to create a C curvature in the middle, and this one we're going to leave out and leave pre-existing. Now it's important not to go back in with a green metal here.
Almost like a brick lay.
Totally, yeah.
What's the benefit of the curve to the section?
The benefit of the curve is it is close to a zigzag, so it's less blending than a zigzag, but more blending than a horizontal line. So you're creating those really soft, transient movements, whereas you would have more interchange if you had a zigzag. It would be more deeply blended, and if you had a horizontal line, it wouldn't blend as much, so it would look a little bit more stripy or blocky.
That's great to think about. And people obviously think so much about sectioning when they cut hair, but it's just as important when you're coloring.
Yeah, absolutely. It all comes down to blend and sectioning.
And so
Wanna give
just
some-
to take a point real quick, you basically are foiling that entire section you just took. You're not
Right.
splitting it in any way. You're not weaving it.
I'm not. And the reason that I'm doing that is because of the medium that I'm working in. This is water. I mean, take a look over here, Kelly.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's literally
Like
water.
it's literally like,
That's the
it's water
streakers and you mix
and
it with
water. Yeah. So it's
And streakers
super,
is a liquid.
Streakers is a liquid, and I'll show you guys that a little bit later when we go over to rinse this out.
Okay.
But it really allows you can see how easily I'm blending that. And if you have a hard time blending, or if this is maybe one of your first times doing a blending type of technique, then what you can do is actually get the hair damp first, and then that's only gonna help you blend a little bit more.
Gives you a little more control of the hair.
Yeah, and also you're working with a wet product on wet hair, so it's gonna become automatically more
dilute-
slippery.
Does it dilute the outcome in any way?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's intentional. So if you, I see what you're asking. Are you asking if you do it
If
on
you
wet
still-
hair?
Wet on
Uh-huh.
wet.
Wet on wet,
Yeah.
slightly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
It'll
does.
be a little bit less.
a little bit
punchier.
lighter.
Right.
All right, so we've got a couple hundred people watching already, which is fantastic. Some of our good friends, Bo Bollinger,
Hey,
Nicole.
Bo.
Thanks for sharing the video, Nicole. And then here with us tonight, we have some of our community. We've got Michael and Ben from Philadelphia. They always love to join us on a Monday night.
Where you
make
at,
great
Ben?
videos. And for the first time, we've got Jonathan Mason joining us.
Thanks for coming.
And
you
we're
do
glad
the
to have these
excuse,
guys
guys?
here. They're all creating content. So we'll see all additional content around tonight. All right, so you're moving back into that a little bit more now.
Coming back, and one of the questions that I get when I ever do this technique is, like, what's the pattern? And basically, the pattern is that there is no pattern. So you have to, it depends what section you're working on. You have to kind of just puzzle piece your way in, and that's why it's just a little bit different than a brick lay, because it's not an exact
The shapes are
pattern.
different, right.
The shapes are different, and you have to kind of figure it out as you move back in the head shape. It's not going to be,
It's kind of like makes you think of scales.
Yeah, yeah, like scales on a
or
fish.
something. Yeah,
That's a
it's
good
like much
point.
more organic. So a couple of questions about the type of foil that you're using. Can you tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
that and
it's-
why you choose it?
I like the texture of this foil. It's very thin. I find that I can create much more pretty foils if it's not a super thick, heavy duty, and also it has less of an ability to slip out of the hair. These are similar to Diane's hair coloring foils, and I like also that they're pre-cut because I just like to keep
They
it
seem
nice
a bit
and
like
neat.
textured on
Yeah,
the surface.
they have texture a little bit on both sides.
And where do you get those?
I get them at a beauty supply
Just
store here
regular-
locally. in
They're just
Detroit.
regular beauty supplies.
They're called Eden's, man.
Thank you.
Edens.
These are Edens. Okay.
Yeah.
Edens.
Yep.
Great. Yeah, we always have questions about that type of stuff. You know, the tools are important. Yeah, that's pretty basic stuff right there.
Hey, but they're great.
Yeah. When you
Thanks,
find the good
DJ.
stuff. And then again, you know, we've had a whole bunch of questions about the color that you use. And, you know, Berry, she can explain it herself, but she doesn't stick to any one line. She works with multiple different products. So you said that, you know, just to refresh what
Yeah,
you did here.
so for the lightener, for the pre-lightener that we did on Saturday when Alyssa came by, we used Schwarzkopf Blonde Me with 20 volume. Processed for 35 minutes till it came up to a pale yellow. And, you know, if you haven't worked with that product before, it lifts super mega uber fast. So you just have to really, you know, be aware of your control and your speed on everything. And I used a toner of mixing and custom creating my own Evo Fabuloso conditioner, and basically used their color conditioner as a pastel toner, and that's how I actually achieved the brush look that you already kind of see in some of the areas.
And now you're going in with the
And now
streakers
I'm
mixed with
going- yeah,
water.
streakers mixed with water.
And going with your Marshall's Luxe
Inspiration,
trend
exactly.
inspiration.
You got it.
Hey, Remy Cole just tuned in.
Oh, okay. What up,
Give a
Remy?
shout out. What's up, Remy?
So I just noticed that you painted above the foil. Are you concerned about bleeding in any way?
That's a great question, Kelly. With this situation, I almost want bleeding. You know, it's kind of, I do a lot of techniques that are like the anti of what we're taught. It's all about the pressure with which you do it. So I'm not going in straight from dipping my brush in and like digging in there. I'm really working with a drier brush and just touching just right above. So you can see also I started to work around the shape rather than starting to work back. So this was my metallic
Let's remind us
green.
where her face is. Here we
This is where Alyssa
Hey,
actually is.
Alyssa.
Yes.
Welcome back.
How you doing under there?
Hey, she's doing great. Your
Doing
color is
well.
amazing.
Awesome.
So we started basically in the front, and now I'm just working around to the side. So I'm going to go ahead and leave out my negative space now, and that's why it's important. You can only do this technique if you use at least 3
So
colors.
how exactly are you deciding to take that negative space that you just took?
Basically, my negative space is kind of like my filler. Does that make sense? Like it's what keeps the green and the purple or the bluish steel away from each other. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually swing around here, Kelly, if I don't kick you. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the opposite side. So you can see here, I ended with my blue
And you know that because of the way
because
you
of the way I
folded
folded it. And now I'm gonna work in with another C curvature and work with my green metal.
So you're folding one under and one over, so you can tell the difference.
Yeah,
That's what
one
I know
horizontal,
sometimes-
one
Let's take a
vertical.
better-
Yeah, I know sometimes
section?
people use like different color foils, but
You
this
can
is
do that as well. This keeps
this is
it
easier
a bit
and
easier.
probably cheaper than buying
Yeah,
different color foils.
exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just, you know, you forget to switch the foils. If you're doing a different
Yeah.
fold, you
Yeah.
definitely are remembering.
Right on.
And you know, you can always open the packets if you don't want to do that, but it's definitely a little bit easier and quicker if you work this way.
So Nicole, who tunes in all the time, thank you, Nicole, and just shared the video with her friends.
Thanks,
She's
Nicole.
asking you about the Fabuloso. She says she sees it a lot on Instagram. What do you think about it? Is it a good product?
Yeah, I really like the Fabuloso, and thanks for tuning in, Nicole. Basically, it's great because you're able to create custom conditioners for your clients, and there's a multitude of ways with which you can use it. So, you know, you can really create, every client can walk out the door with a custom color conditioner, and you can also use it to tone or refresh. So I like it. I've had good experiences with it, and it stays pretty true to the tone that you see mixed up.
Awesome. Yeah, and they definitely somehow have managed to get themselves onto social media. I think the name has like something to it, you know?
Yeah, they have kind of like a kitschy
Yeah,
campaign, and
yeah.
it works.
Barry, you're saying something about even porosity?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you for reminding me, DJ. So what I sprayed in actually before we started, which we didn't catch on camera, which let me just grab that from behind you here, Kelly. And I'll demonstrate just on the next section. So this is the EDA Serene Hydrating Mist. And what I do when I do techniques like this is I like to spray that in prior to, and just, you can either dry it in or you can leave it wet.
Let's just do a slow-mo.
Slow-mo of the C curvature.
Yeah.
So kind of filling the porosity so the color will
yeah,
absorb
you're
more
evening out the
evenly.
porosity.
This is the front. What's this?
That's the front. And then I'm just going to move back here, and on this section,
Oh, one sec.
oh, there we go.
So you're choosing to take 2 sections at a time right now.
Because this is going to be my negative
Just to stay
space.
organized.
So
in the
that's my
process.
negative space. I'm going to take this next one, C curvature again. And you can see now what I meant by puzzle piecing. You know, you just are kind of working your way around. So as we all know from coloring hair, the porosity is always a little bit higher as we get towards the links and ends. So what I'm going to do is just use the Serene. And this can also help the foil stay in if you're not used to working with a larger section.
Again, we've had lots more questions about the foil. It's just a generic, something you can get at a beauty supply called Eden. And Barry said she likes it because it's a bit thinner.
It's thinner.
Yeah.
So you can see how much more easily that is to blend when I have a little bit of the Serene, EDA Serene Hydrating Mist in there. And then I'm just blending it up into the root area. Just with soft strokes, and just as I get closer to the root, working more kind of parallel so that I'm just brushing it to create that brushed metal effect.
And again, guys, we love your technical questions for Barry. Anything to do with color, and then we'll be doing a cut here in a little while.
Absolutely, and I'm going to show you also how to rinse this, because part of the technique is with how you rinse it to create that and blend them together. So, all right, let's just take a look here and see where everything is. All right, so this is a blue metal, green metal, blue metal. And I have green metal here, so you can see I'm doing pretty good with that bricklaying. So now what I'm going to do is...
You're doing a good job.
Thanks. That's a pat on my own back. But it's important to keep that in pocket because it does get a little bit tricky once you start getting in there. So I'm going to just isolate this with a clip, that negative space. I'm going to take another section.
1 second.
Got it?
That seemed like it was right over the top of the...
It is. It's like almost tracing it. And with this one, I'm going to work again with my blue metal.
Great.
So again, it's almost like scales, the way they kind
like
of build
fish
in.
scales or
Yeah.
tiles on a roof.
I mean, if
kind
you
of.
get that general idea, is there a wrong way to do it? I mean,
The only really wrong way to do it was
Yeah.
to do too many of the same.
too many of the same color.
You don't want to have too many
Yeah.
of the same color.
Right.
Because then it
But
just
the
doesn't go
sectioning
well.
itself, it's
Sectioning
just
itself,
like
yeah.
like shingles on a roof, like
Exactly.
you said. Yeah. So you just get, once you figure out where you want to start that curve, then you just keep curving.
You just keep curving and
So it's kind of
moving
like
around.
1, then 2, then 1, then 2. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
I see some masonry in here.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so again, about the actual streakers, the question is, so is that like a semi-permanent that
It's
you've
actually
diluted?
fully temporary.
Fully
So
temporary.
so it basically only stains the hair. So obviously, if you were to do this on darker hair, it would not work because you need it to be light enough to stain. So that's the key. I mean, you can do this technique with real color, with permanent color or semi-permanent color. You know, the technique is not dictated necessarily by the
Is this
tool.
gonna
in
come out like
case.
a watercolor kind of effect?
A little bit, yeah.
So Frank Mussolino is making a lentil soup while he's
Yum.
he's inspiring him.
Are you sharing?
Yeah, I'm making a beautiful
We
lentil
expected
soup
that. That's
while
only in
watching.
Jersey. We can have it in less than an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
I
Delivery.
wonder if he's got a nice ham hock in that lentil soup. I'm sure he does, making it nice and smoky. Yeah.
All right, so I'm just gonna come around now. Oh, see, now we're switching places. Gerard.
Oh,
Sorry about that, Kelly.
no, okay.
All right, so now I'm gonna come back around that next,
Well, one
that
second.
last section.
Uh-huh.
You good? And we're gonna do another green metal here.
Okay.
And as I start to work back towards the crown, now what I'm gonna do is stay a bit further away from the root area because that's an area where we wanna have a lot of versatility of how that hair is moving. And I don't wanna lock DJ into a certain style. Anytime you come into the crown area, you know, you wanna be careful with how close you are working towards the root because sometimes that's where color can go wrong. It's right in that area.
Meaning like if he's going to cut a lot of texture in there.
Right, or even just, you know, if I go all the way to the
movement,
root, the
the
movement's
movement
gonna
of
be kind of dictated by the color,
right.
which is not what we want.
Right.
It loses that organic feeling, like even when she styles it
So
herself.
intentionally staying off the root at this point.
Intentionally staying off the root. And I'm still gonna have a little bit that goes towards that. I don't wanna be all the way to the ends, but I'm definitely not going as heavy as I was earlier.
So again, guys, we love your questions, technical questions, or questions about trend. DJ and Barry, they're kind of like trend forecasters. They put together these packages twice a year. They share them with different companies, organizations. They share them with hairdressers. So in this one, can you tell us a little bit about the Marshall's
Yeah,
Lux?
absolutely. Marshall's Lux is really inspired by the Eastern element, so almost the warrior samurai culture, and mixing that with a little bit of sportswear. So it's taking men's inspired looks and making them more luxury. So it's great for the tomboy, it's great for, you know, really detailed hair. When you're thinking of colors and finishes, you want to think about how do I create those luxury textures with color. So that's why we're working with like a brushed metal and creating that by using different monochromatic tones in the same color palette.
So when you guys are kind of discovering these trends, like where do you look? I know hairdressers are always looking to be inspired and find trends, like, and you guys are creating your own and you're building these whole like packages around them. Where do you get the information to get inspired to create your own trend?
That's a great question, and
Yeah.
it's lots of research.
Yeah, lots of research.
So, you know, we work with a team of trend forecasters.
Let me just see where her, where's Alyssa here? There she
Hey.
is.
Hi.
Okay, got it. Yeah, just as a point of reference.
Picking up radio
All
waves.
right, so we're pretty
Yeah.
much right on top of the head here now.
Yeah, and this is going to be our last section as well. So basically what we're doing, and you know what, while I was talking, I'm just going to refold this because I just remembered that this actually needs to be
Fold it in another
folded
one.
this way. And that will happen, and if that happens, just go back and
I think it-
correct it before you move forward.
And will that help you later with rinsing? to
Yeah,
have-
exactly. And
yeah.
just so I can look at the balance of how things are looking, you know, I don't want to have
Be honest with
too
yourself.
much. Yeah, I don't want to have too much of one color. So, and see, now I'm looking at it and I'm saying this is blue, this is blue, this is green, right? So I'm looking at how to balance that. I'm going to go with a blue right over this one and then a green in between because I want to balance that. So it's really important, really, as you get to the closing of the section, how you're then going to balance that out. But as you were saying, Gerard, we work with a team of trend forecasters, but DJ and I do a lot of research, and it starts with industry trends in terms of the greater industry. So what's happening on the runway, what's happening in art, what's happening in architecture. And then what we do is we compile that information and we build it into 4 key trends for our industry and how you can talk to your clients about trends rather than talking in terms of collection based, because you know, as we know, like collections are amazing and we all love them and use them, but sometimes you want to have more options for your clients that maybe collection based type of feelings aren't their thing. So
Right.
they still want to move forward with a different type of look. This is a great way to do it, is by talking to them about trend based.
It's a bit more big picture rather than, oh, this is the haircut of the season.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Cool.
then my last section, I'm just gonna leave a little bit of negative space. And my last section is gonna be the green metal, and we'll head over to, just go ahead and rinse this. Now, some of you might have a question like, I'm not gonna let it process at all.
And there was something about a toner.
What about the toner?
Just if one was in the plans, maybe. Are you thinking
This
about
kind
that?
of is the toner.
Yeah,
isn't
this
it?
is
Yeah.
basically in essence the toner, and what I'm gonna do is add water to it and then kind of emulsify it all together. So that's gonna kind of stain a little bit more as well. That's why I've done a little bit of pre-toning just to start that brushed color feel.
And can we go over any kind of like the negative space that you just might have been leaving on the top right now?
Yeah, I just left out like one curvature slice of negative space there. And it's just important to leave that in. And when in doubt, negative space is your friend.
Yeah, that was Shelby's question, if you're going to leave any out. Just as she asked it, you left out that piece on the
Oh,
top. Yep.
nice timing, Shelby.
Perfect timing.
All right, so this is that last section there. And if you guys are interested in the main entrance trend forecast, we're actually going to be starting a subscription coming in 2017 to where you can have access to that no matter wherever you are. So
Awesome.
that's in the works.
Awesome. And then, exciting news, these guys are going to be joining us at Teach in Long Beach. They always do incredible stuff on stage.
I hear
and
something
we
going
did
on right
something,
there.
Stoked about that.
Yeah, we've been
Ben?
doing these Elevate Hair events all over the country, and DJ and Barry have joined us. And the last one, they did something that I think
Something
was just so
dope in store for you
incredible.
guys.
Yeah, all I have to say is hair hats.
Hair hats.
That's
So,
all I-
so we'll see you at Long
But
Beach.
when you see it
Hair
live, it's really, really incredible.
And you'll
Really
see it at
incredible.
Long Beach.
Yeah.
All right, Alyssa, can you see enough to get to the shoe?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll hold your hand.
Okay, sounds good.
So we're gonna just go over going to that part.
Yeah.
All right, great.
So you can see more space here.
Hey, Jonathan. All right.
All right.
All right, so again, we're in the Mainentrance Artists studio. It's called At the Main. So this is where they do their clients and do a lot of their creative productions. So it's great. They have everything that you need here for to do photo shoots and do events. So they've actually got a sink, which is a real blessing. Yeah, because we're on what are we on the 4th floor of a building here in Manhattan.
Yes, we're on
It's
the, yep, 4th floor.
not typically a salon, but they outfitted. How many years have you guys been in this space?
We've been here
6?
for 6 years now.
6 years.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
So you can see that I've taken all those out, and I'm not going to rinse them individually. Rather, what I'm going to do is just go ahead, and it's going to be cool water, Alyssa.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and just wet everything at once. Right, get it pretty wet, and then I'm just going to emulsify that together. Because what this is going to do is just blend any other little extra bits. So see how that's then now watercoloring those other areas?
Can that hydrating mist be used with permanent color or bleach?
Yeah, you know what I would do is just dry it into the hair
Yeah.
first rather than working with it damp. But yes, absolutely. And it has some fantastic balancing properties.
And this one's pretty awesome. Manash Solanki is in the hospital recovering from surgery watching
my gosh.
this.
Oh
And
man.
very inspired and fascinated.
I'm glad
to
you're
be
here
honest.
with us
Oh, well,
today,
well
right now.
wishes.
Thank you. Big ups and well wishes.
Yeah.
All right, so see how that's just kind of
Let me get a
merged
close-up on
everything together? So it still has those separations, but I have a blend in between. So it kind of does tone it in a way for whoever was asking that. So this does not need to be shampooed. So I'm just gonna rinse a little bit more, add a little bit of conditioner, and then hand heat
Fred,
it.
the behind you,
Oh, yeah.
this is
Thank
the bill.
you.
That's
Guys,
the
right
stuff,
here.
the
You can
streakers.
see the streakers.
This is
too.
what
All
everybody's
right,
been
all right,
asking
all right.
about.
While you do that, let's take a little peek here.
Yeah, this is the product.
So we found these in Paris, but you can see just that array of colors, and this is the palette that Barry worked off of. That's actually the palette for Marshall's Luxe. So you can see more of that soft watercolor, kind of luxury feel to everything.
And basically, you just put those in a glass container and mix them together. And then you can
And
just
it-
try
and
it out
it's-
on paper, and then you can see exactly what your palette is that you want to be working with.
Any specific mixing ratio?
It depends how diluted you want it to be. So the more potent you want it, the less water.
You can just put it direct with no
You
water.
can put it direct with no water, but that Mama Jam is bright. Just one.
Really?
The Mama Jamma is
Yeah.
bright.
Yeah.
Like and it will stay if you use it direct. It will stay for I would say a good 3 or 4 washes. So just, be aware of that if you're gonna go that direction.
Yeah, but that's awesome because it's so much less committal. Like you were saying, people who are going into braid bars and doing this kind of stuff, I think they're getting the temporary effect that you can have something cool and temporary as opposed to, having a vivid color that sometimes can't even come out of the hair.
Exactly.
Yeah, so this is interesting.
It's a great solution. It's a great way to increase your service because I think we all have a lot of clients who see the vivid hair or see, the pastel hair and they
Right.
like the look, but either they want to try it out without the permanence of it, or maybe they just want something for an event. So,
It's
we
kind
have
of the
to,
opposite of, people don't want permanent. They
Yeah,
want like that
they
real
want-
true,
they want
even
to
with
be able to
curl
try.
and wave, if you can do like a semi-permanent perm,
Yeah,
they're all about it.
absolutely.
Like just to know, oh, it's gonna wash out of my hair.
So-
Interesting enough.
So you can see that already, where you're getting we have a little bit of the pinks, we have a
That
little bit of the
is
greens, and a little bit of
banging.
the blues.
It looks so good,
So
girl.
excited.
All right,
Let's do it.
Okay.
head over to
So we're gonna head over back now, and DJ's gonna be doing some cutting. You ready?
Yeah, I'm
All right.
ready.
Alyssa's gonna get a haircut from the man
Perfect.
with the master plan, DJ Riggs.
You ready, baby?
Yeah.
All right.
Boy, let me get situated here now.
All right. Needs no introduction. One of my favorite all-around hairdressers, cutting, styling.
Hey, guys.
I'm sure he's got
All right.
something amazing
Thank
in
you so
store
much.
here. Let's see what you got.
Let's get into
All
it.
right, guys. So let me just take this. Barry, can you take this for me? There we go. All right, guys. So as you can see, Barry has a feel that's happening with the hair, with the color. What we're gonna be doing now is just work the technique from creating that really metal type of brush metal type of feel. But in order to do that, I want to give the hair depth. So Barry worked off crescent sections. So I'm gonna go in with just a crescent shaped triangle coming from the recession area.
That's super pretty just to see it combed
You
back.
just see
with
that,
those
right?
colors on there.
Yeah.
And then I'm just gonna really accentuate that by almost giving it more of that C-curve type of effect, right? So that's that C-curve type crescent coming here. And then right from that crown area, I'm gonna come and approach the same way on the opposite side. And just carve that parting like so.
So the C curve sections kind of go with the color.
Exactly.
Which is great.
Just playing right off of it. I just want to make sure I get proper balance in there because with these shapes, it's all about the sectioning dictating how the haircut is actually going to fall upon the canvas. So we just want to make sure we get good balance in that. And we'll actually start the haircut from working the perimeter first. So just kind of make sure we're good on that.
The color is just looking so beautiful. I don't know if you can capture it on the Facebook Live quality video, but I can tell you firsthand that those tones, it's almost like a blush on the hair, super, super pretty. And I can imagine the whole thing being toned like that too.
Ready for clips?
Yeah.
And a towel.
Clips and a towel.
Clips first and a towel for her. Perfect.
Thank you.
So again, lots of people joining in, lots of love for you guys. Hi
take a
from
look at this
London,
section
from
here.
Georgina. A lot of people can't wait to see that color dry.
Amazing.
And then they want to know if you're retailing streakers. You sound like the spokesperson.
I know, I do. I'm telling you.
Just something different to
Yeah.
work with.
Just a little something different.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, guys. So just for a prep spray, I just want to make sure I go back in. I'm just going to go with a little bit of the hydrating mist and just spray it around the perimeter. What this will also do is just assist me in actually drying the hair, something that'll really help the hair to dry as I'm cutting it and give me a lot more slippage for the cutting technique. So now we're just going to start from the back,
All right.
just working right from that center bit.
Yep. 1 second here.
Well, so what's your overall vision for the cut? If you're going to kind of describe it, what to expect here?
Well, the thing that I want to think about is think about metal and when it's melting, right? So when metal melts, it creates more of this thatchy type of feeling, but it's also mixed in with this smoothness. So imagine that thatching is happening around the perimeter, and then it goes into more of that smoother feel of the metal that's actually polished. So with this particular shape, we want to create the thatchiness around the perimeter, just to give it the depth, and then create the smooth luxe feel happening around the crown area as well as the front.
Got it.
So with the technique that we'll do, we'll just come in first, doing some slicing. And with the slicing, it's a bit loose with it. Just making sure not to be too controlled, but still have a visual balance to it. So jagged, think of like the radio when it's coming in like that. So that's kind of the effect. We're gonna work that all the way down to the perimeter.
And it just kind of works from the inside out, which I think makes it a bit softer and looser.
Totally.
Rather than just like point cutting from the outside in.
Exactly. And also, because we want to create more of that, the brush feeling, remember, I want to make sure that the hair can be pushed. So when I think brush, I think the push. So by slicing like that, it works for me.
How much would you say that you're actually taking off?
Usually, that's great. I usually judge it by percentages. So let's say this is the all-around fill. So from a percentage base, I would say maybe about 10%. 10% of that length is going to come out.
And how do you judge what the ideal length is with this texture? Are you just kind of gonna cut it and see how it reacts, and then decide if more needs to come off?
Usually
Or?
the S pattern. So
Right, the bend
just
in
see
the
where
hair.
that bend takes place, because you can actually go too far sometimes with this, and then the hair is forced to do whatever it's going to do. You don't have any manipulation.
That's such a good one. Can you explain it a little more in depth, that S pattern thing? Because I think that it would be really, really helpful for people to understand that.
So when it comes to the S pattern, it's just kind of the nature of how the hair naturally wants to bend. And when that happens, when you figure that out, it really kind of allows you to have a guideline
And you
for how
apply
much
this to
go.
any hair type,
Oh yeah,
dry.
any hair type, no matter how coarse. Some hair textures, the S pattern kicks in quicker than others. So
Right.
when you
It's
talk
just
about coarseness,
determining
it's just
that-
determining it.
It's just like that bend. If you cut it shorter than that first bend, it gets a little bit willful. So
Totally.
you're finding that first bend and then kind of respecting it. And
Exactly. Respect the texture. Respect the texture. So carving that out as I'm working, and I'm just going to show you guys that. You can just see just how it's creating that feeling for me. And let's say if you're going to go about it and you want to do more of a vertical graduation, you can think of it like that, because it's really vertical sections, but except I'm slicing it in. And we're just going to work that.
and they're pivoting around a little bit.
Totally, but slightly moving a little bit. But for the main part, I'm just kind of gradually moving up slightly as I'm working, but not too pivoting, because I'm not bringing it all the way back to that center, but just working off the round.
Can you do a slow-mo of how you're actually maneuvering your comb to take that section?
Great, yes, I will. So always comb the hair, the direction that you want it to go first.
Right.
And then from there,
Wait, sorry, can you?
Yeah, just right
thanks.
there.
Yeah.
She's a taskmaster.
Perfect.
then once I do that, I flip to the small tooth side
And brush it back.
and brush it back. Then back to the wide. See how I slightly angle that coming to the front? Tighter tension. Once I have that, you can just kind of see how it just gives me that movement coming towards the front.
That's great.
So again, we have people tuning in from all over the world. We've got some love coming in from Dijon in Serbia. So many great hairdressers over that
Love
part of
that.
the world. Where we're so impressed with
Yes,
the
we're
quality
coming for
coming
you
out of
guys.
there. Yeah, we plan on getting there eventually.
We're coming to Croatia first.
Yeah, Croatia and Serbia. We'd love
You
to
guys
visit.
are on our list.
Absolutely. All right, that texture's
And I'm
really
seeing
starting to
Maxime in
happen
the
now.
UK.
Yeah.
In the Ukraine.
So I'm just going to turn it a little bit so you guys can get a look at that texture a little bit. So you can see how I'm just kind of manipulating that and opening it up, just so I can really see that thatchiness actually work through there. So that's kind of the feeling you want. You want to visualize what type of finish you're looking for, and then from there you come out with the techniques to help achieve it. So now working towards the front. The great thing about martial lux is that, you almost think about it like Barry said, martial arts. So more warrior-esque in a sense. So going into battle. So creating something that's going to help you get recognized. And that's what this texture represents, the recognition of that particular shape.
Well, now all the locations are coming in. We've got April Bryan in Tampa, Florida. Arlene Lowe, love from Ireland.
Lovely.
Bridgewater, Massachusetts. Hi from Greece. From Irene Georgiadis. Robert
Lovely.
Sutton in North Carolina. Shout outs to everybody all over the world. Thank you for supporting us and being part of the Hairbrain community. All right, DJ, so now you're starting to come around through to the side.
All right, so now as I get to the side, I'm going to slightly
Once
over
again.
direct. Over directing that section to the previous, because you can see where the longer lens kick in. That's coming from her top, right? So with that, just over directing to maintain a little bit of that, but still going in with the slicing.
And the
technique.
section's kind of meeting up with
Yeah,
the
you see
disconnection.
that? Just kind of
Super
working
slow
that.
here.
So building a little extra length in that area, so that it relates to the top a little bit better.
Yeah, and then that slice carve. So notice I went from slicing to carving a little bit, just for even a softer transition.
Oh, they keep coming in. We got Texas, Detroit, New Mexico, Kentucky, Perth, Australia.
Oh, Perth, I got peeps in Perth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right on.
baby.
It's a beautiful
Perk.
place.
Love Perk.
So Shelby wants to know if you're working on more of a feeling than a guide, or is there a guideline?
The guide is always there. And one of the things, I'll just show you guys in slow motion how you find that guide. Since it's a visual guide, you want to always kind of have that push. When I push that down,
You see the little pieces?
that's the little pieces, and that piece represents that S pattern marking. So that marking is what I'm using to follow in throughout. So that's always my guide, is the S pattern of the shape. So it makes it easy to know where my starting point is when I'm working.
So it's really a combination of technical and creating texture at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So DJ, can you tell us a little bit about your trend collections? Barry was talking a little bit about Marshall's Lux. How does that apply in the haircut?
Well, in haircuts, what it does, it gives us, as hairdressers, just something that we can actually go in and use as our mental canvas. And I think a lot of times when we, as hairdressers, we're like, think of it as bankers with a lot of techniques, right? A lot of portfolio companies that they invest in. So we invest in a lot of collections and things of that nature, but we have to know how to distribute it, right? So by getting a canvas that's representing like what's happening, like for the season and what the trends are, it allows us to have a better way of distributing all the education
Just see the section that
that we
you just did?
receive. There we go.
And these just basically they kind of
Totally,
work
slightly
around,
traveling,
and then they get a little bit
then it
more
gets steeper.
horizontal.
So
Yeah.
imagine it like that, like Gerard said, slightly coming, then it just gets steeper as they get there. But the last one is just being over-directed.
And you're using a slicing technique, and there is a guide. So I know it seems like he's just texturizing, but this is a good example because you can see such
See?
a little bit of new hair. You can actually see through and see the previous guide. Although you don't want them all exactly the same, you just want it to relate.
Right, and I mean, I think that's the key thing in visual cutting. You know, it's like visual doesn't mean free fall in a sense. I think a lot of people feel that visual means free fall. Visual just means I'm looking for something before I cut.
Right.
That means visual. So when I see what I'm looking for, then I go in versus letting something dictate what I'm going to do.
Right.
So the section doesn't dictate as much as making sure I see the guy within the section.
And now the scissor movement, like, can you describe the angle that you're going in with the scissor and like what, because it seems like it's kind of, it's not with the hair, it's a little bit more
Like when you
across
come
the
in,
hair.
think about it like this. I come in flat and then tilt to carve out. And that gives me that push. So as I'm working, that's what I'm thinking about. Making sure that even when I go fast, you might not see it, but slow, you see how I'm almost letting the blades pick up the hair. You see how they just picked it up?
I totally got
And
it.
then I carve up.
Yeah.
You see, pick up, carve out.
Yeah. So I mean, all these little things make a big difference. That, you know, you create different types of textures depending on the angle and rotation of the scissor.
Totally.
A lot of trial and error there to
Oh
see what's
man,
going to
I'm
work.
telling you, man, my fingers are hard right now because they have calluses. They have no clue what they're feeling.
Yeah.
So guys, as I'm working, one of the key things to make sure is the head shape. Always be kind of aware of where the client head is. I think sometimes we get so into this that we kind of forget to get our body positioning upright so that we have better cutting technique. And I think when it comes to like doing your craft, it's just making sure that you exercise proper positioning so that you can flow better when you're working.
Open up all the chakras.
There we go.
Big love for Kelly from Patty. Says your camera work is amazing.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you. It's nice to be appreciated. She gets in there, make sure that everyone can see and get the best lesson possible. And you know, I think one of the reasons why Kelly does such a great job is because she's a hairdresser. She knows what to look for.
You seem like you just changed your hand motion.
Yes, so I'm starting to slide out. You notice I'm sliding, and what it does, it keeps me from hitting the same place twice. Sometimes if you cut, you know, you ever notice, like, I call it with a hairdresser that's standing still. You kind of like, if you're still, sometimes your hands are still and you're just kind of doing this,
It
right?
becomes robotic.
But you don't get any movement. Move your body so you get the movement, so it helps the haircut to breathe more. And I think a breathable haircut is a more stylable, versatile haircut.
Move your body,
Move.
jack your body. Yeah, but there's always such great music here at the Main. I mean, we turned it down now, but we were listening to some good like house music before, and
Totally.
we have pulled up some Colonel Abrams, which was some real classic house music.
Gerard, they don't know
Yeah.
about that Colonel Abrams.
I
man.
know,
They don't know
but
about
we're
that.
sharing
You
it.
gotta come to the main with the B
Gotta come to the
team.
Main and hang out.
Yes, man.
Great,
So-
we've got Lisa Beal. She's just a student in Tennessee, and this is getting her super motivated. Again, that's the whole idea. We just want to share the art and craft of hairdressing with as many people who are interested, and I think DJ and Barry really epitomize that.
Yeah, and you know, guys, one of the things that you'll see, like if you guys pick up the trends, is the ability to create a mood board for your head that's based on the whole industry, whether it's like architecture, fashion, clothing, whichever element of it that you like, you kind of start to see how your mind opens up a bit. And then sometimes it helps dictate cutting techniques that you might utilize and different approaches of finishing the hair. Because I think cutting is great, but styling is also a very key element when it comes to being a hairdresser. It kind of really implies that we have to know how to finish the looks that we actually do. So with that, that's what the mood boards really help with, and understanding a bit of the trends changes up the way you communicate styling to your clients, and also what products you utilize. You know, if I start to see a lot of more things that's really strong and solid, I use products that's stronger and solid. Things that's softer, I use products that's gonna help create that type of
And it
softness.
keeps it interesting for you, the hairdresser.
Totally.
Like, let's revisit a last trend that we did.
Exactly. It's almost like one of those things before a shoot or something, same concept. You guys, you can kind of see that feeling. You see how just loose that is? Just providing that texture with that metal.
Awesome. So we have a great question from Pam Pfeiffer Kreutzer. She wants to know, does it make a difference if you do this wet or dry?
Yes, if you do it on dry hair, it has a tendency of not allowing you the ability to move more. The drier the hair is, the more restricted you are, because the hair is a bit more restricted. I think having the wet hair allows the slippage that you're gonna need for the technique. So if you are gonna do something on dry hair, technique is all that that changes up. I'm gonna show you guys this other technique I'm gonna be doing, which is called controlled slicing. Gonna have Alina head over, there we go. And now it's gonna comb everything down. Now the purpose for this is to create, we have the disconnection that's here. Now we're gonna create the blend that's coming from this area, working our way down to the front, yeah? I'm just gonna add a little bit more product just to make sure I get some slippage on it.
Yeah, so people were asking what you were using in terms of product for slippage.
Serene Hydrating Mist from EDA. EDA is my company, guys, that I co-founded with a friend of mine, but it's really based on hairdressers getting what they need, and that's all.
Is this more of like a silicone-based product, or?
This one right here is witch hazel, sunflower seed oil, all the things that's going to be natural to create more of that movement, but it also helps with the hair texture to kind of hydrate and moisturize it at the same time. So you can see we have that. Here goes the guy coming from the back, for those of you that like that. And then from there, the blade comes at its deepest point, closing the blade and pushing excess hair back with the blade, then coming back and closing again.
Cool.
You might see some people try this technique by actually teasing, but that's on dry hair. What I like to do is let the blades dictate. Close,
And then back.
push back, then close, push back, then
So it's
close.
getting a variation. It's not just short to long. It's like short to long, and short to long, and short to long.
Exactly.
Let's see like a super slow-mo if you
And
can.
that's blending out from
Totally.
the crown to those longer colored bits.
It's coming from that crown, deepest point of the V, closing, push back as you open. That's the key thing. When you push back, open the blades. That way you ensure that you're not cutting. Otherwise you get the cuckoo, little rooster there, hair just sticking up. So, so once again, close, push back, close, push back, close. Now as I'm doing this, I want to create maximized texture, yeah? So watch this. I'm just gonna see how I'm kind of weaving in. Now I'm going in even more in the interior to get some of that excess out.
So we have kind of a career question from Shelby Lynn Miller. She's a young hairdresser, and she dreams of having her own line someday like you, DJ. What advice would you give her?
You know what? Dedicate yourself to a company that understands products and education, and then try and really figure out the industry and find out what's going to be your implementation. What are you going to add to it? You know, because really that's what it's about, finding things that you love, and if you love it enough, you'll take it to the next level. Organically, it's just going to happen for you. And I think that's my first rule of thumb with coming out with a line is integrity.
Yeah, I think we always say the same thing. You know, if you want to be something, find, you know, if you want to be a great salon owner, find a great salon owner, work with them, learn from them. So if you want to be a great product creator, find a great product company to work with, yeah?
Yeah. You know, so guys, I'm over-directing, just so you know, pivoting sections, just like this, over-directing everything back to the center, all the way till I get to the excess part of the hair. So this is my last section, and you can kind of see how that color is starting to really give off that nice,
It is banging.
nice feeling.
And I know there was a question earlier regarding how much color was being cut off, and I wanted to mention that, you know, that's why it's so important that you have a plan beforehand. And DJ and I always speak about what the end result is going to be before we both start creating. So we're all exactly on plan. And the other great thing is when you're working with a tool such as a temporary color, what you can also do is add more if you do end up wanting more. But in this case, we're right on track with where we need to be, and that's why It's so important that if you do both cut and color, you have three-way consultations, really have a cohesion between yourself and your stylist, or if you do both, between those two sides of yourself, really.
That's an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Self. How much color?
Self.
How much color should we cut off?
But you do need to do that. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
of course. Self. Where will you be placing these highlights?
So guys, last section here. One of the key things that you guys have noticed from trying this technique, a lot of times in our academy courses, we do a lot of different techniques because we don't stick to one, but finger position is one of the things, right? So I'm working on my left side of the shape, but I'm gonna come from overhand with this particular technique, which might feel uncomfortable. If it does, just tell her to put her head down a bit lower so that you can get on top of it, and then notice how I come from the back
one
with it.
second.
Yeah, I think people often find that kind of backhand, overhand very challenging. So it just, again, comes down to practice, doesn't it?
Sure does, Gerard. And like one of the other things that you can do, it might feel awkward a bit, but for that reason, sometimes you do this, lock the comb in place, then come from underneath.
Let me say that one more time, please.
You see? I'll lock the comb in place where I want it, then come from underneath. And that's for those of you that might feel awkward about coming from overhand. So what's one of the key things that you love when you're working? You kind of understand better ways of how to do the techniques that you want to work with. See, lock it in place, come from underneath. You see that? So I'm still making sure I get ample control. Now chin up a little bit, Elisa. Perfect. So you see, now my body position is better. So it's all about just being aware of what it's going to take to get the feel you're looking for.
Again, people from all over the world. We've got Ma'am watching from Thailand. I think that's the first time I've seen a Thailand viewer, but that's great. We've got really, global hair community. All right, so you can see this coming together now, and you can see the color where it's all falling around the center and towards the front. Looking incredible, guys.
So now,
TJ, we have a question about our classes that we offer.
all right, so guys, after I do this bricklayering technique that I'm doing, just kind of break down. We have really aligned courses that's really key based on working off the trends. And one of the great ones that we have is Effortless Essentials, where it's just color and styling. It's figuring out the best colors and the best styling techniques that work together to complement whatever type of looks your clients want. So sometimes it's not about the cut as much as it is about how the styling is of the color. So for those of you that really want to advance yourself inside of like how to finish the hair for the different color techniques, that's a great course to do.
Yes.
You guys can kind of see how I'm starting to manipulate this in style, giving it more of that Marshall's Luck type of finish, that Marshall's Luck's coming in, just so I can see that brush metal type of feel work a bit.
I think all that kind of texturizing and weight removal allows that hair to bend so much better, doesn't it?
Totally, Joy. If I didn't do it, I wouldn't even be able to do it.
Yeah, just
you
be
know?
solid.
Can you take us over real quickly the sections you were just taking? It seemed like you were cutting over your finger.
Yes. So once I'm done with it, I want to create more of, this is almost like, think of it if you're making a drink and you kind of finish it off with a little simple serve. This is my simple serve. Coming in, just creating brick layering.
What do you
getting
mean by
comb in
that
there.
exactly?
That it's going to be the almost the polisher that helps the hair switch from side to side.
Got it.
Because I have a feeling that sometimes when you do these cuts, it seems like it only does one thing. But by going in with this technique, it allows me to have a transitionary function around the front. So once I get the comb, you see that space? Put my finger there. Now you see how I can move that with my finger, then coming in with the blades, and then just working. You see? And I'm moving my finger so I'm getting longer towards the front, and you can see it's soft. It's just enough to give you just some of those transitionary bits that's happening there. We're gonna do the same thing on the opposite side before we blow dry the hair.
So Agim from Kosovo wants Alyssa to know that you're looking very nice.
Yes,
You're looking very
That
nice.
was spot on.
Let the blonde client know she's looking very
She
nice.
definitely knows that.
Thank you.
Same
Can't
thing.
wait to see it.
Oh, I can't wait for you to see it.
Cut is so inspiring. Can't wait to try it out. Tisha, good luck with that tomorrow. Hopefully you have a great client in the salon that'll let you do this look. That's Tisha. She's excited to try your
Very nice. Tisha, go for it. Let us know. Feel free to contact us, guys. Let us know.
Tag 'em.
You
Put
know,
it up
let
on
us know.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Tag Mainentrance Artists so they can see it.
You know, it's all about sharing, you guys. I mean, and that's what this platform is about. Just really getting the stuff out to you guys and having fun with it. And then just kind of like letting you guys share stuff with us. Because I think back and forth is the way our industry can really grow. It's just by opening up that door to
You know,
share.
it's really interesting when I
Sorry,
was
guys?
just in Japan and I was we had a very senior hairdresser join us, very respected, 40 years. His name was Harada-san. And he was, at the end, he was very moved because he said, you know, his generation of hairdressers that are like older in their 50s or whatever, they come from a place where you have to keep it to yourself. You don't want anyone to steal your techniques. And he said he was so inspired to be with a different feeling where it was all about sharing, and he was going to try to spread that word around. And I thought it was really interesting, really kind of touching the way he expressed it to me. Because he's like that, it was so exciting for him to share, because for so long he thought he had to keep it to himself.
Like, it's so funny that it's been like that. You know,
Yeah.
the world is changing right now, and it started with this canvas. Guys, I'm just going to add a little bit of this liquid light before I blow dry the hair. And this is just going to help. It's great for hair, for clients that have blonde hair, any hair that's chemically treated. And it's just going to help me to create just a nice feeling. Once again, that's liquid light, and that's also a mediate. Just kind of add that into the hair before we dry it. And remember, the look, I want more of a wet type of look with it. Like, I don't want to actually mat it all the way out. So these are the way I'm going to work with the products, the way it kind of helps to stay in this particular form without actually being dried all the way. So it's a really great practice for those of you that want to kind of create those type of finishes with the hair.
Take a look on the other side.
Again, guys, any questions that you have for DJ or Barry, you know, we'd love to hear it. Everybody's watching and joining in, and lots of inspiration from all over the world. But we love your questions as well. That's what keeps it going, keeps it interesting. So we did have a question about your scissors, your shears.
Oh, the Kuhos.
What were you using? Kuhos?
Yeah, the Kuhos. There you go. And those are the Kuhos 7-inch shears.
Yeah, that's a great one.
And right now, guys, this right here, this is the fabric spray. I just launched this particular product. It's this one here. And what you want to do is just spray it. It's more of like a new take on hold. And just working with the hair like it's a fabric, like in fashion. That's where the concept came from. You can see how it's starting to really clump up those textures and kind of create that depth in it. You can look up for me, Alyssa, just a bit. So just using my fingers, you can see how it's giving me that hold.
Trying to get a good angle here.
How many products in your line, DJ?
Right now, we just launched 2 more. That makes a total of 6 products that we actually have in the line right now. And it's more of a boutique collection of products. So it's just to give you what you need and to get right to the source so that you can be inspired and do your thing.
And if people are interested, where can they find them?
You can go to EDA Pro,
Put it online in the
EDIAPro.com. And I'm going to take this brush. This is from my friends at Ibiza.
I was just talking to Aaron today.
Did you talk to Aaron?
Yeah.
Big shout out to Aaron.
About the after party at ISSE.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Right after
Nice.
teaching, we have a
Get in on
nice
this.
party.
Nice. So you guys can really kind of see how now that's working to give me just that type of a feel.
She's ready to walk out the door.
Another great comment from Ali. These kind of videos are what give students like me the motivation you need when you feel like giving up. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You know, it's a craft and it's a long journey, Ali. And the key is surround yourself with like-minded people. That's why Hairbrain, we do what we do every week, hanging out with great, passionate hairdressers, and we all feed off each other. That's why all these guys are here, Jonathan and Ben and Michael, even Larry. That's why he's here. It's
I don't
because
see you guys.
we're all like-minded, and the hardest part is finding your crew
Yeah.
of people. You know, and that's what Hairbrain helps people do. A lot of these people all connected through Hairbrain. So be sure to download the app and follow us and connect.
All right, guys, so now I'm just kind of going in with my diffuser from YS Park and just kind of letting the product activate itself. And you can see how it just gives me that nice hold. I'm just going to slightly turn her a little bit. And you can just kind of see how that really creates that stationary type of feeling.
So this is a great diffuser. You'll notice it doesn't move the hair at all. This is one of the few diffusers that we've ever found that really just lets out heat. There's no airflow, and that's going to be so important for this. Because if it was blowing it around, it would lose that sculpted finish.
Totally. So guys, you can see even though we added texture, we still maintain a bit of that control to the hair. And the texture just allows for it to have more depth. And I think that's the kind of the key thing so you can really see.
Michael Thoder giving a shout out to the B team. B team in the house.
Michael went for a smoke.
Lots of love coming in. It's looking so
Thank
cool.
you so much, guys. Thanks for checking
So
this
pretty.
out. Appreciate it.
What's that? Yeah.
Guys,
More about the color.
It's a great way for guys, like if
You
you're
know what?
working
I
with
love the
people.
way the color doesn't look like stripes. It's just
Yeah.
like it's almost like an Easter egg, like in a good way. You know, the way it's just like on the surface of the egg.
It's classy.
Yeah, like marshmallow. Now I get it. Yeah. It's not like stripes of color, and it's it's really hard to get with these fun fashion colors because a lot of times it looks really contrived.
Yeah.
I think that's a great word. It's not a negative word or a positive word. It just looks really so like done. Like, oh, look at me, I have a vivid color. Where this is, it just kind of melts in. She's really a blonde, but she's got this like fun stuff in there, which I think is awesome.
All right, guys, so we're just kind of getting right to the finish of it. Starting to just dry itself down a bit. Just gonna leave that a few more counts.
A few
And
more
my
counts.
favorite, you never didn't use a brush.
Yeah, you know.
I'm rubbing off on you.
You know, exactly. Give me a little bit of that juice you got from that. Guys, I'm gonna take just some serene polish just to kind of close it all out right quick. Hold that for me, listen. I'm just gonna put that.
All right, so this is the finish here.
Yeah, perfect.
Come on in here, Barry. Talk about the color one last time because we have probably tons of people who just joined us.
So for those of you that just joined, we really worked with a brushed metal feeling inspired by Marshall's Luxe. And DJ and I worked together to create the whole vibe and feeling, and you can really see that come through as he's working the product in now. And it's all about just working together, working off of a trend, and doing art.
Doing art, guys. Thank you guys so much for checking out. We'll put this website on there where you guys can apply to find out our upcoming class schedules and let you guys know more detail about it. Let's just remove this off so we can see it with the whole look.
Yeah.
And I'll take that for you.
Thank you.
There we go.
How do you feel?
Great.
Yeah, it looks
I love
awesome.
it.
Yeah.
It looks really cool.
All right, there we go. Oh, there she is. Nice.
There she
All right,
is.
guys. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks for joining
All right.
us. Again, DJ and Barry will go through the feed, answer any questions, and give you guys any information that you need. We love you. Thanks for the support. Thanks for everyone that joined us. Jonathan, Ben, Michael, and we'll see you guys soon with the next HB Live, which will be number 40.